Well, hello and welcome back for another scrap time with me. Welcome back to Scrapbook Your Legacy with Carrie. I appreciate all of you who are subscribing and who have liked my videos. I really appreciate that. I just encourage you, if you're enjoying the content that I'm putting out, to please like and subscribe because it does help my channel. Today I have a fun layout for you. I'm continuing my journey through Colorado. I haven't done one of these in a while. So a couple of lake hikes. One of them was at the Continental Divide. If you've been to Rocky Mountain National Park, you might be very familiar with this if you have driven over the ridge and down on the western side of the park, which doesn't get frequented as much as the front side of it or the eastern side of it, where a lot of the easy trails are, and people tend to come in from Denver there. So this side is where you see a lot of the wildlife. We did not see much this time. All right, I have I'll bring the papers in, and I'm going to walk you through actually with this layout using photorealistic papers and some of our tools. And I'm going to walk you through some techniques. Now, I have inked the cardstock, and I have shown that in another video how I ink the edges. So I've already inked this. I'm working this as like a 12 by 24. So I'm not inking any of the inside pieces. And I'm going to demo this, but if you have, now, Creative Memory, since I have purchased mine, has gotten a brand new 12-inch trimmer. They've widened the base out to 6 inches, I believe. It might be a little bigger. And they have marked off 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, and 1/16 inch. So if you find that helpful, it might be the trimmer for you. But one of the things about the trimmer is all the blades that it has. So it's a great tool. And I'm actually going to use one of the blades today. So I had just heard about this in a video, and I hadn't even thought about it this way. But if you get nervous tearing your paper, then this blade is a great answer to that. Now, I'm also going to do a Border Maker cartridge. And if you, with this cartridge, and I'll show you the cartridge. This is the cartridge, and I don't remember the name of it. I might have to see if I have the box. But it's directional, right? So if you want it all going in the same direction, then you would need to flip your piece of paper and punch it. So that's what I'm going to do. I was like, oh no, it's going this way and I want it to go that way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this side. So one's going this way and then one's going that way. So we're going to make it work. But anyway, so we'll come back to that in a little bit. But I have inked these papers, and I'm also going to show you how to extend your papers if you don't have enough so that it shows up. So we're going to do that. Now each of these papers are, and these are all from Deeper in the Woods. Each of these are cut at 3.5 by 12. All right. And then as I've turned them into banners, I've changed them. I've reduced them by 1/2. This one was by 1 inch. It's too short now, so I'm going to cut it here behind the photo and move it out. All right, so that's an easy fix there. So we're going to do the same on this side. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this paper for you. And again, these are photorealistic papers. And if they make you nervous, then I'm just going to say banners or even frames are a great way to utilize them. And I want to use the decal blade. Actually, I want to use the decal blade on one side and the straight blade on the other. So I'm going to go ahead and put the decal blade in now, and it's very easy to change. And I'm just going to take about 1/8 inch off. So the 1/8 inch mark is you have your cutting line right here, and then the very next line is the 1/8 inch mark. I don't know how that has changed on the new trimmer, but this is what you learn with these. All right, so I'm just taking 1/8 inch off, and then I'm going to replace that blade again with the straight blade and come in, just flip it and cut it at 3.5. There we go. And it's done. So we're done with that paper. And then I'm going to punch it. So we're going to do that. But if you can, hopefully you can see that cutting. Let me put it behind some white paper. Hopefully you can see that, where it looks kind of a little bit like torn paper. You can see it better on like this one here because I've inked it. So it looks like you've torn it a little bit. So if you're nervous tearing paper, the decal blade is a great look. And I did learn that on another video, and I wish I could remember who it was. I think it's one of the new videos that Creative Memories is putting out right now to demo the new trimmer and just show you how it all works. All right, so we're going to come in and we're going to use our border maker system, but I don't want these on this one to be going the same way. So I'm going to actually flip it over and hope it works. I'm thinking it does. That's how my head is working. That's how my brain is working right now, is that it will work. So we're going to see. And then I'm going to ink the edge of it, even though you won't see much of it. I will ink it anyway. So it matches up. All right, so we're done with the border maker cartridge. And you can see this type of cartridge is what we will call a punch out. All right, it leaves the edge of the paper and then it leaves a negative design. Okay, there are border maker cartridges that create decorative edges, much like the blades on the trimmer. So there's different kinds, and then there's ones that completely come away, very much like a laser cut border or a border sticker. Okay, so there's 3 kinds of trimmers or blades. All right, so good. I got it to work the way I want it to. All right, so I'm going to ink the edge. Again, I just used the decal blade. Okay, and I'll be linking everything in my show notes. And then if you use the Creative Memories inks, you can get re-inkers for these, by the way. I've checked that on Amazon and I think scrapbook.com. Store them upside down, okay? That's the best way to store them. So I'm just going to quick ink this up. I've already matted my photos. I've already trimmed up all that. And then we're going to turn these into banners on this side as well. I like how that looks. I don't think I want a straight edge. I think I just, again, remember the other week I showed you, you can do a clean line. You can't see it very much on this, but I just want to give a little differentiation to this. But you can come over on, lean it into the paper to get more of an aged look, or you can, lean it back and it's a cleaner look. But I want it to be a little grungier, if that's what we want to call it. But it's just a way to get the edge to stand out a little bit. Now I'm not going to ink the end yet because I'm going to cut it. And we'll see how all that works. And so that is the Memento Rich Cocoa, which is our Hot Fudge cardstock color. All right, so let me go ahead and cut these down. We're going to trim these. I'm going to trim it down by a 1/2 inch because I want enough over there. And then I'm going to show you an easy way to create a banner. All right, so we're just going to take that. And then I'm going to cut this one down by 1 inch. We're just going to see how it works. If I have to cut it, I'll cut it and make it wider. And then we're going to cut this one down by a 1/2 inch. Just so we have a border. And then I'll ink these. All right, and then what I do to create that banner edge, there are punches that you can do it with and probably dies, but all I do is I just fold my paper, and you can cut it as deep as you want, depending on how deep you want your tails to go, or shallow, okay? So I'm gonna go a little more shallow, a little shallower. That's probably the correct thing, right? And that's gonna be down here, and then I'm gonna cut this one same way. I'm just gonna cut shallow. It doesn't have to be perfect. Also, pay attention to the other side. This side has a really cool stripe, but the branches only go a certain way. So, and thankfully, I do like to use my stripes more horizontal than vertical, so it doesn't really matter. All right, so we'll do another shallow cut there, and then on this one, do another one. And don't worry that it's punched out. We're just gonna do a shallow It'll cut like that. Okay, so that's done. These precision tip scissors from K Memories are wonderful. All right, so we're going to come back in and ink these, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to lay these down, and then I'm going to stick everything down and come back with finishing touches. So this way, it's inked around the outside edges and then inked in between the layers to give differentiation. All right, so it's, see, if I didn't ink this, you see how this kind of blends into the beige cardstock? So I inked it to give it a little presence so it doesn't completely disappear. But I like that it's a little tone on tone, and I was trying to go a little more tone on tone with this. So blending the browns, the beiges, and the greens. I think the green brings in some nice freshness to it. Yeah, let me know. Do you have the 12-inch trimmer? You know, how do you like the different blades? If you have the Border Maker system, do you enjoy that? Or maybe there's something, you know, maybe you're a die person and there's certain dies that you like. All right, now over here, when I go to lay my photos down, I need to cut this. So I'm going to bring back in the trimmer, and I'm going to cut it here closer to the end. I'm going to do that. All right. And be like, oh, don't do that. And I have to wait to see on that. But that's how we do that. Okay. Now I want about, I'm thinking a 1/2 inch border, and I'm going to have this come out all the way to the end, and then this is going to come in a little bit here. And so I want to space it where we have about a 1 inch. Yeah, there we go. A 1 inch border all the way around. It's not going to be the same on the outside, and that's okay. But from top and bottom, I want a 1 inch. All right, I'm going to stick this down and come in with the photos and get those stuck down. And then we'll come back and embellish it. Okay, so I will be right back. All right, we are back. Now you can see I have a photo mat here. This is where my journaling is going to go. And then I've got the pictures from the hikes. This was a lake, I wish I could remember the name of it, that we went around. One time we went to see this lake, the park had a late snow, and it was hard to get in there because we only had our sneakers on, and you could not get down in there. It was piled so high. This is the lake that's at the Continental Divide at Milner Pass. And so we haven't always hiked up and around, but when you hike in here on a loop, it hikes away from this lake. But this is just really pretty looking down this valley. And on this trip, sorry about that. On this trip, if you remember, I shared with how my husband was just struggling with walking and stuff and hiking. And so we did do a hike, but then I also did a couple smaller hikes. So there was this one, and then there was another. All right, so we hiked to a waterfall, and he did okay with that. We weren't able to do the hike that we had wanted, but we did a bunch of smaller little things. And so, you know, sometimes you have to pivot, but the day turns out well. Okay, so I cut this strip so it would extend out beyond here. I had to do the same here. So I've got that piece, and I have cut it, and I actually just need to add a little more to it. And then I'm just going to drop it in behind here and try to line it up. And I'm going to bring it all the way out like I did the other one. And try to, there it is. That's pretty straight. All right, so then you can see it. So this is a great way to use that photorealistic paper that sometimes people just don't know what to do with it. So it becomes a background, but it brings in interesting texture that ties in everything. All right, now for embellishments, I have some inking that I want to do. Well, not inking, but you can see how I want to stamp some things, but you can see how I've inked my photos already so they stand out. And, you know, you could double mat your photos. I just went with a single brighter matte. I didn't bring in any added color because I felt like I had enough going on, but you certainly could bring in a double matte. I don't know that I put green right up against this, but I would put green behind this and just do smaller mats, thinner mats, narrower mats, however it goes. All right, so Deeper in the Woods has a lot of these kinds of embellishments. I'm actually going to cut it so that I can use it again in a different way. And I really just want the brown part of it. And then, you know, when I cut this, this can hang out from a photo some other place sometime, somewhere. So we're just going to cut that down. And this is going to come out below this photo. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that down. But this is just how to extend some of your embellishments, right? Is to, you know, depending on how much of it you're going to use, is cut it down so you can still, you know, see it. You know, you can use it. And I just want the brown part. I don't want the green there. And then, ooh, don't stick to the photo. They have a life of their own. And then I'm going to come in with, this says living the good life. There we go. It was upside down. So I'm just going to center that. All right. And we're just going to come in and I'm going to get that lined up. I'm going to pick it up. You know, sometimes you have to do this. All right. And I'm going to get the brown ink and I'm going to try to load this up a little bit as best I can. And we'll see how it does, and hopefully it goes on clearly. So we're going to see. I'm going to come in, I'm going to try to center. I'm trying to visualize it centered. All right. And I'm going to hold it for a little bit just so it sinks into that paper. It's a thicker paper. It's not cardstock. It might have a little bit of a finish on it. So I'm just going to hold it there and then I'll pull it up. There we go. I could probably ink it a second time. I'm not, because I am not tempting fate today. And then I'm just going to use this cardstock just to get some of the ink off of there. All right, we're going to come in with another one that says best day ever, and that's going to go on another embellishment. All right, so let's start bringing in our embellishment clusters. I am using some leftover punch outs. If this was the punch that came with the, came out at the same time as Deeper in the Woods, and it punches out trees. And you get different sizes of trees. Okay, so there's little ones, taller ones. So I picked these. All right, and then I've got this log round that I'm going to bring over here. And I'm just going to tuck this down in behind here, behind this photo. And again, it's always nice to have things extend out beyond the visual borders. And I'm just going to come in and ink in behind it, because put the sticky stuff down, whatever we want to call it. All right, and then, I hope the sticker didn't stick to the back of that. Nope. Okay. I do have a sticker, so I need to find it. Here it is. Lost in the Beauty of the Woods. So I'm going to use this round sticker in here. I'm not going to put it up on foam squares. I'm just going to, well, it's down. There we go. At least it's straight. So, can I even, nope, I'm not even going to lift it up. If anything, I'll move this down just a slight bit so that you can see the bottom of the word. All right, let me stick this down a little bit better. The things you find as you start to take things apart a little bit. All right, and this is much the same. This is going to come out to the edge over here. All right, underneath. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to come back in with this piece. I'm going to have it pretty much right back up there, and I could even trim this off a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do, so it lines up a little better. You know, it's just on the fly. You just make these adjustments. I can follow a straight line here, and it won't be so noticeable that I trim this. There we go. All right, so I'm going to come back in. Well, my husband and son, my older son just bought a house, and we've been slowly moving him in, you know, out shopping for stuff for him to make a home for himself. And they're driving some furniture down there. And I was like, oh, you might want to cover up the dresser that you just got, you know, with something that's waterproof because it's might rain and now it's thundering. I'm just hoping good Lord will protect them and protect that furniture. All right, so I'm going to bring this tree in over here. I'm going to slide it down under the photo a little bit, and I want it to kind of come up in here right next to that sticker and create a little cluster. I'm not going crazy on these clusters today. And then I've got a cool sticker. You know, they have all these vintage looking stickers when you go into the gift shops. And I'm going to attempt to, would it be smart to do that? Maybe what I might need to do is cut this too. I was thinking I'll take it off and stick it down, but I think, you know what? It might be better just to trim it. And I could use my corner rounder on it to just get a rounded edge. Again, you know, you adjust. I was like, yeah, I'll undo the sticker and stick it down, but it's probably better just to do it this way. And it's going to be hidden behind the photo, so it's not going to be as noticeable if it's not too straight. Now, let's see what happens if I use my corner rounder. Can we... All right, that works. All right, so we're just gonna, I don't want it squared off per se. All right, so that's done. All right, so I'm gonna bring this in right back in here. And I want those people, I wanna be able to see the people. And I'm trying to think, do I want to ink the edge? I probably do. I've inked everything else, so why not the sticker, right? I mean, it's kind of beige, so, and actually, got butterfingers today. Okay, I am going to do this because I want it a little neater. And because I don't know how the ink is going to act on this sticker, I'm just going to do the edges. There's a better chance of it absorbing on the edges. And so I just think that that would be the better thing to do. All right, and that way you can see it. We're just going to do that, let it dry off a little bit. And now it stands out a little more, and I definitely want those people in there. Okay, so here's my other sticker. I'm just bringing in some of that avocado green over here using a different pattern, and I may cut that down. I don't know yet. All right, so let's get this down. Okay, and we'll just be fiddling with stuff. All right, so we're gonna kind of come up that way. There we go. All right, and then we're going to come in with this. That's going to come in behind this to have some separation. And then we're going to come right down like that. There we go. Everything's starting to shift around. Okay, so I've got that. I'm still breaking through the top up here. All right, and then I'm going to come in with a brown tree over here. All right, so what, you know, you can cluster and do embellishments however you want. You know, you hear a lot out there on YouTube and on the internet. Threes, you know, 3 clusters to draw the eye through, which makes sense if you're trying to, you know, draw people through. But also having one photo stand out. Now I'm going to have a peekaboo pocket over here. This is my peekaboo pocket, right, that shows the lake coming in and then my son walking ahead of me. So that's going to go here, all right? And so it's matted. That's my standout photo. I've got the brown, I've got the brown, I've got the brown. And it draws in the brown from here. I've got the green, I've got the green. You know, there's green here. I don't need more green here. All right, so to me, this feels balanced. And that's what you're looking for. You know, you want to kind of, you do want to draw the eye through, but don't lock yourself into all these rules. I say it's important to do scrapbooking how you love, and some people like it really simple. And sometimes that's what I want. I want it simple. So we're going to come in and we're going to put this tree down. You know, these, you know, and this is repositionable, so it will just swipe off. All right, and I'm going to bring that over here as well. And maybe, I don't want it sticking out from behind the photo, but I'm just going to do that. Now, I do have this, and this is going to come in right in here. All right. And let's just try to straighten that out. And this is new. I don't think I've used this one yet. So I'm going to, this is where you season them up. You see that sometimes. So we're going to do that. And then I'm going to, hopefully I don't get my big old head in the way here trying to do this. Okay, but we're going to come in right over here. I want it kind of like that. And we're going to go down. We're going to commit. I'm going to hold it for a little bit because it's thicker paper. I just want it to absorb in. There we go. Best day ever. All right. And it might not be showing up great on this, but I can see it very clearly here. And it is getting a little dark here because there's a storm coming in. So let's bring in some light from the other side. All right, so we have that done. We've got this done. And I think that's all my embellishments that I was going to add to this layout, because I feel like I want the photos to stand out. I don't feel like I really need anything else in here. You know, I could always, you know, bring in the stickers and see what else there is. You know, there's this log, but that's kind of large. I've got some rocks here, but I don't really have rocks around here, but I could, yeah, let's see how that looks in there. I can always put it back on. No, I don't like it. And it probably was too quick for you to see, but I just don't like how it looks there. I thought about these leaves, but then I don't really have them over here, and I really need like a pine bough. So we're going to leave it. I think it's fine. I don't have to do any more to it. I've inked my outside edges. I've got enough interest on the page, the Border Maker cartridge, and then this, which I will put on after I have my album assembled. And so this is what I do. I use top-loading pages. And so what I've learned to do now, because this has happened to me, where I put an album together with all the peekaboo pockets assembled and, you know, on the outsides, and then I realize I need to add something, and then I start moving everything around, and these become permanent. So what I do now is when I put these into my album, and I'm not sure how they're going to stay, I just tuck the peekaboo pocket down in with the page, and then when I feel like the album is done, then I put down all my peekaboo pockets. And I think that makes it a little easier. All right, so let me just remove this. This is, you know, here, I'll show that to you. That's my son walking down the path. I just love how that looks. This is as you're walking into this lake. And I'll do my journaling here, which will just be talking about these 2 hikes that my husband was patient. He kind of waited in the car, but then he actually wandered out to find us. So here's this one embellishment cluster with this log piece, which I love. And then the round sticker, which breaks up a lot of the linearness of this layout. All right, here's where I did the tails. And then you can see the decal edge right along here. Okay, you can see it all on it. So it looks a little bit like torn paper, and I like that. All right, and then you can see the wood grain. And then here is that Border Maker cartridge, which I think is great for a travel layout. All right, and then the lake photos. All right, and then here's the other side where I stamped. All right, remember, I cut this in half, got these to go the other way by flipping this pine paper over, okay, to the opposite side. So I stamped Life is Good. All right, so there are those photos. Again, the inked edges, so it looks torn and aged. All right, and then you can see where I stamped Best Day Ever. All right, and then the sticker that I didn't take off, you know, it's stuck down. All right, and another tree. All right, and then the edges, and then there you go. So that is the layout. And again, my apologies for not getting it out on Friday, but like I said, family comes first, and we have a son who's moving, and so I spent Friday cleaning house, and then Saturday doing more cleaning with him. So we're just enjoying this season of launching and releasing and helping out. So, but here we are. I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll be back with another one, you know, in time for the 4th. So anyway, thank you for watching. Please comment below. Have you been to Rocky Mountain? What's your favorite national park? I would love to know that from you. I love hearing from you all, and I respond. And then let me know what you liked about this layout. I'd love to hear from you. All right, again, please like and subscribe. And lastly, if you don't have an advisor and you would like one, I'm in the upstate of South Carolina, and I would love to be your advisor if you're here in the US. All right, well, enjoy the rest of your weekend and the week ahead, and I will talk to you later. Bye.